morning, I'm David Humphreys from North Warwickshire. In terms of the green area, a little bit about myself in one respect. I spent 50 years working. I have retired now. I've spent a lifetime pushing plastic down people's throats effectively. I've worked in the automotive products, households. Every way you turn, I spent a lifetime making sure plastic was at the front end of everything we did. So I am a bit of a pariah in that sense, but we've all had to change. If I go back to with local authorities, we were producing window profile for local authorities. Local authorities insisted on using virgin material, no sustainability. Virgin material, the other stuff was, when it came out, it was either burnt or landfilled, and old plastic windows would actually be just put into the ground. Things have changed where that's concerned now. So we have here at the moment, like North Warwickshire Council declared a climate emergency in October 2019, and it was decided to complete a baseline audit of measures currently in place for the emissions of the council. One thing that we've recognised since, this is definitely, people would like us to sprint to an end. It's never going to be an end. It's an ongoing, evolving situation. And I'm convinced it is definitely a marathon. We have to take our time to do it and have the resources to do it. Outline steps to ensure the council's direct and indirect activities achieve a net zero. And that is our aim and our target, and we're working towards it. We ensure measures to reduce carbon emissions as well as assessment of carbon consequences of all major projects or decisions are considered at board meetings and working groups. Easy words that, but it's difficult to improve to do. But now at every meeting there is a climate agenda as part of moving forward. And plan on how to engage with residents, workers and businesses to reduce emissions across the borough. Not too long ago, it might be hard to believe, North Warwickshire, major mining area. A dozen mines, the last one in the top of the county closed, had become birch coppers in 1983. Only a few years ago, Dawn Mill closed because there was a major fire there. But written into the design spec for building our social houses, they had to be coal-fired heating. So that was still not too many years ago. We were quite happy to put a Baxi boiler and put in a coal-fired heating because that's how it was thought. That's what was always done, and we've had to change that. I must say, over the last 10 years, we've never put a coal fire in any council house. So looking at our carbon impact, moving forward, baseline study, fleet vehicles. It'd be nice to change our vehicles for more modern vehicles, but they're all diesel powered. They're all on 10-year contracts. So there's no rapid change where that's concerned. And hopefully we're going to be able to do it. As I said just now, heating in our own buildings. Fortunately, our main council offices, we've actually refurbished them 4 or 5 years ago, and it actually reduced the heating bill dramatically by changing the whole system. We've also made sure that the building is open plan. By open plan, it's made it a much more healthy place to work, and also the electricity reduction as well as a result of that. We're also looking at any new buildings where possible to try and put solar power. On our existing council building, main building, which we did look at solar power, it's a steel portal building with a brick clad. It isn't capable of taking the weight. Things are changing in solar panels, and hopefully we may be able to consider that in the future. It's all about saving money and saving energy. Progress to date is we have established an all-party climate change members group, which is cross-party, and it's working quite well. Currently developing our climate change action plan. We declared an emergency in October 19, and we're currently developing this. So the whole thing, as I said earlier, is an evolving process. Climate change implications are considered within board reports. As I said earlier as well, there is a champion, and there is part of the agenda. Every one of our boards has a climate agenda as part of what we do. There is a climate champion in each division, and we have an officer that is a climate champion for the whole council. Working with neighbouring authorities and partners, because And I would say that we're all part of with Coventry and other parts in us for the MRF, which is a new recycling centre. Again, that's driven not just by being good at recycling, it's also good at cost saving, because the gate entry for bringing waste to that recycling centre is reduced from where we do it at the moment. So again, the cost has to come into any of our calculations. And we provide online information and guidance to residents. I will say though, it's not a major banging on the door by residents asking us what we're doing about climate change. There are some that do it. We've got to get more of the message out to people. Climate Change Action Plan. The party member group is working on that plan, and we're looking at travel and transport. The big thing about Warwickshire, it is a rural environment. We have got 3 or 4 major settlements, but the great majority of it is rural. And buses are almost, in some places, non-existent or very, very rare. We're going to need to work at what we can do about that. And those buses, we need to work with the suppliers of buses to see what we can do to sort of electrify or do whatever to improve it. Waste, as I said, the MRF, I nearly called it the Smurf, that's the nickname for it. And I'm hoping all the vehicles will be blue at some stage. Building, including, it says excluding housing, but actually as we're going through the better homes with our own housing, we've got 2,630 of our own local authority. We used to have 5,000, but with the right to buy, they've reduced and reduced. And in terms of some authorities, we've got hardly any houses compared to others. But we are working on new bathrooms and all the things that go with it, new housing, insulation, everything, to make it better for the residents that live there. It's quite strange sometimes. You might find somebody who lived there for 50 years and you want to refurbish the house for them, but they don't want anything to do it because you'll upset them, and it has to wait, unfortunately, till the end of their days, and they don't need to use those houses anymore. But our plan is to make our our housing a much better with retrofitting. Forward planning and development management. We work very closely with our forward planners, with all of the other authorities. The only one it seems to me that we don't ever work with is A5. Highways England. I like to mention Highways England. I wish Andy Street was here, because I always bang on him about the A5 being a major communication. But we do work with everybody in terms of our effect on what happens to other people. And we have to support communities, obviously. We're doing people in communities in terms of improving leisure facilities and other issues, and make it as much as possible better for people to use and better for us to provide. Biodiversity and open space management. There is masses of trees and work that's going on, and projects that you said earlier about plant a tree. I believe there's thousands of trees being planted. But I once went up to the New Forest near Scenic Park near Measham, and I looked at where they said, and I stood there with a chap who was introducing me to it and said, we put 4 million trees in here. I don't know if you've ever looked at 4 million trees, but it doesn't look a lot when you actually are there, physically there. But we've put thousands of trees in, and I'm hoping we can put even more in, especially with the Queen's canopy. So highlights from our draft action plan. Evaluating a switch from diesel to hydrogenated vegetable oil. And there's going to be other sources as well. Hydrogen will come, etc., in the future, but not ready yet. Plans to reduce carbon emissions from fossil fuels within our buildings. Adaptation of our buildings to ensure they remain suitable. And retrofitting of existing housing stock. As I said earlier, we're trying to make them much better and better homes to live in, and cheaper and warmer. Aim to achieve a biodiversity net gain, for example, through local authority treescaping. I said that earlier, but we need funding to help where that's concerned, even though there are lots of groups getting together to put things together at the moment, and especially with the Queen's Jubilee, we have people looking to put small forests up here, there and everywhere, and lots of schools involved. And partner in the Sherburn Materials Recovery Facility, as I said, the MRF, which will provide numerous benefits for North Warwickshire and a wider region. But the challenges, there's always challenges. Availability of funding for mitigation and adaptation measures. We do need help where everything's concerned. We're only a small authority, 65,000 residents. It hasn't got lots of cash to do things, but we try to do as much as we can do. Internal capacity. COVID has been a nightmare in terms of people not being able to work, isolation, working from home, and contact with people. It's made it very, very difficult, and we're working through it. And Heather just said about it's nice to get back to see each other again, and it is, but then it starts putting pressure on the transport and things again where that's concerned. Behaviour changing behaviours of residents and businesses. People need to buy into it. You know, our stakeholders. We do work with the Wildlife Trust. We've worked with Severn Trent, and the landowners. Some of the hardest people to work with are our landowners. You know, and I'm thinking of areas in and around Colza where the family's been there since 1066. They don't necessarily see a need for change, and they've gone on forever in a very, very similar way with, I wouldn't say almost a feudal system, because it is, some families have been there hundreds of years, and it's difficult sometimes to get them to work with us. And ensuring working with lower incomes, with families, trying to do as much as we can to make life as cheap as possible for them to be able to have a full and effective life and be contributors to what happens in North Warwickshire. Thank you very much.